When Ravensburger's Disney Lorcana first hit the scene, Disney fans and card collectors alike flocked to the stores and bought out every product, waiting in hour-long lines just to get their hands on one or two packs of the first chapter. Enchanted cards were reselling for up to $1,200 on secondary markets, and the price of booster boxes skyrocketed past $300. But then something changed. Booster boxes for the latest sets are now being sold for $50 under MSRP. There are multiple enchanted cards that sell for less than legendary cards in the same set, and no one's playing the game anymore. Welcome to the channel. My name is Ryan, and stick around while we answer the question, is Disney Lorcana a dead game? Before we start, I did want to take a second just to thank everyone who's come to the channel and subscribed, helping us get ever so close to that 1,000 subscriber goal. If you haven't already, be sure to smash that sub button so you don't miss any news or gameplay Lorcana videos. And now let's get started with the breakdown. So I think the loudest point of negative feedback that you tend to hear online about Disney Lorcana is that there's nowhere to play the game anymore. Ever since Pixelborn got shut down, and now you need to actually own the cards to play, it's a lot less friendly to beginners, and no one's getting into the game. I don't think this could be any further away from the truth, because I do believe that now is the best time to get into Disney Lorcana if you haven't done so already, if you're an active player. We'll talk about the collector scene later in the video, but I think as an active player, learning Lorcana has never been easier. You've got a bunch of YouTube channels just like mine, where content creators will talk you through their decks, talk about their strategies, and show you gameplay, even though it might not be as easy as it was before. And then you have tools like this, Disney Lorcana Gateway, a product that Ravensburger released for entry-level players to get into the game, learn all the mechanics, and they give you some pretty good cards that can be pretty meta depending on what ink colors you use to build your deck. And then if we look at the scale of the tournaments that are going on for Disney Lorcana, most of the tournaments with the highest attendance are actually ones that happened in the last few months. Sure, DLC Lille is still the highest total players we've had in a single tournament. But back on September 21st, Ravensburger actually held 2 Lorcana challenges simultaneously in different continents, and each one averaged close to 2,000 players in the main event. That's not even considering all of the side events that go on while these challenge events are happening. And then on a personal level, just taking a look at the attendance totals of locals at my game store, consistently over the last few weeks, they've been averaging healthy weekly turnouts, even with release parties for other card games like Magic or Pokemon getting in the way and taking away from some of the audience. Now, in terms of gameplay, yes, we don't have the easy to use Pixelborn client of old where you could just load up a deck, try it out for free, and get a nice matchmaking experience. Instead, now you do need to physically own the cards and set up a webcam in order to be matched with an opponent on Pixelborn. It still has the same great ranked ladder, and the ease of use of the lore counters and the ink counter make it still a very good solution for when you can't get out to your local game store. Now, I will say this, as a content creator for Disney Lorcana, it is definitely a lot harder to keep up with the meta trends that come out, especially after big tournaments, because if I don't already have those cards on hand, I have to wait for them to I need to either hope that they're stocked at my local game store or wait for them to be shipped to me so I can show it to you guys. Now, Pavel has stated that if you do need to use proxy cards on Pixelborn Connect, that is completely okay. So this might not be a restriction for everyone, but I think there's just something a little special about having the actual cards on hand and playing a full game with them. Now, especially since we need to play with all of our cards for testing, and we don't have that free tool to quickly test out what cards are going to be meta, I do believe that the Disney Lorcana scene for collectors has taken quite a big hit. As I said early in the video, the latest set that just came out in August is already down to a $50 or so discount on most secondary markets. But I don't think this is a sign of the game dying per se. More so, I think Ravensburger has really gotten it into gear with producing these cards in mass. And now we're just seeing the supply and demand level out. And I mean, to be honest, as a player, if I want to open up cards for the channel, I'm better off just waiting a month behind, and then I can get a huge discount on a box. And if I need to play with any cards, that's when I can just go buy singles for the meantime. And then you'll see this same pattern even with the last set, Ursula's Return. At launch, it was at that $140 MSRP and has slowly trickled down as the weeks and months have gone on. But I actually wouldn't be too worried, because if we take a look at Set number 3, Into the Inklands, the set that most of the community agree this is where Ravensburger really got their production issues settled. It's hovering right now at about $110, so still a lot cheaper than the MSRP, but these boxes are still readily available. Every time we go to Disney World, they have sealed boxes behind the counter. So if we wanted to open more cards, we could probably open this set as much as we want. Although outside of chasing Enchanteds, I don't think there's much point as a player to buy boxes, because even most of the legendary cards in the set that are used in the current meta are hovering around $10 to $12, making it much more affordable to just buy a playset outright than to maybe get one of them while you open a box, and then you still need to shell out the money to get the other 3. Now let's take a look at one of the original sets, set number 2, Rise of the Floodborn. This is a set that we've started to see come back up in price now that it's really out of rotation, and getting your hands on this set in particular is a little bit harder. Although my target, for example, will randomly get sleeve boosters of this set, which now is just kind of a fun thing to grab when we see it. But just like Into the Inklands, this was hovering around $110 for a couple months, whereas now that it is pretty much fully out of rotation, it's started to tick back up. You see it now at $140 here on TCG Player, and I think once this set gets even more extinct, you're going to start seeing it rise, as collector's items typically do. And then of course we have to look at the state of the first chapter booster boxes. Now this set in particular is very interesting. Yes, it is the most expensive set. It still has that $1,000 Elsa that is the grand chase of the set. But what's interesting about this set is that Ravensburger looks to have held a lot of the supply off to the side so that local stores have it readily available for players to purchase when they're competing in their store championships. I've been to 3 different stores for my local set championships, and each one of them has gotten at least 1 or 2 boxes, and each of them has gotten at least a case of this set with each store championship. So even if you missed out on opening this set when it first came out, the supply does seem to still be coming out with a trickle flow, so we haven't seen the price of this booster box skyrocket like it was before set championships started, but right now it is holding strong. A sealed box is going for around $225 on TCG Player. So if you can find one at your next set championships, if they sell it at MSRP, you've already turned a profit on that. And then the last point I want to make about Disney Lorcana as a collector's item, if we just go back and look at the first chapter, you're starting to see a lot of the enchantments for the set start to come down in price. Now there are some outliers. The Tinkerbell, for example, the Stitch and the Mickey are all fetching really high prices. Same thing with the Maui. That's just because Maui has been a super meta pick for any Ruby deck. And then of course you can't leave out the biggest chase of Lorcana, Elsa Spirit of Winter Enchanted. I do believe that once the supply of first chapter is completely gone, you'll start to see a steady rise in the prices of these cards. So I wouldn't rule out Lorcana as a collector's item quite yet, but for me, this game just shares so many similarities from Magic the Gathering, from Hearthstone, and I get to play with all my favorite Disney characters. We've got big news like the Pixar characters coming in 2026. I don't think this game is slowing down at all. If anything, I think the best years of Lorcana, competitive play-wise, are ahead of us. We've got the Continental Championships just around the corner in January, followed up by World Championships here in Disney World. If you're a fan of this game, I hope you stick around. I hope you keep watching the videos. Thank you guys for your time. And I hope you agree with me that Lorcana is not a dead game. It's just getting started. I'll see you guys in the next one.